It's Thursday, June 29th, 2016. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, The Lost Village, an anime that, well, it's an anime, all right.
Let's do this.
Well, it was about that time of year, so I started doing the thing that I do every few months, and I changed all my passwords, and I had a few shit accounts that I hadn't really bothered with for a while, so I basically did the 100% password, two-factor, everything refresh of everything I got.
You know, to be honest, I keep bothering other people about their passwords and shit.
You haven't changed your passwords in years, have you?
All the ones that have two-factor, I trust the two-factor too much, and I don't change the passwords that often, but they are really, really good passwords.
Yep. So actually what I did is because you know what I usually do, the best way
and
to
I
make
have
a
it
password,
also, I am very good. I have a different password for everything.
as do I.
There's no two things that have the same, unless they're really stupid, right? I don't give a shit. But
yeah, let's see. I have 2 or 3 stupid throwaway passwords that I use for literally garbage account on a website because I have to log in to see something like a post and I'll never go to it again.
Exactly.
Yep. Or Shitto forum or whatever. But
yeah.
The one interesting thing is that whenever I do this, and you're right, as much as I talk about me too, change your passwords all the time and all that, I don't change my passwords that often.
I should go through and change them all, though.
It was about time because there's been the longer you wait, there's this accretion of hashes that
I want to switch to
leaked.
passphrases because they're easier to remember and even more secure.
But
some websites don't let you passphrase.
So here's the problem I ran into,
garbage.
actually. I wanted to do the thing that I used to do when I was young. I stopped doing because it was a pain, and I wanted to do it again. And what I stopped doing was my passwords were very, very long, but they were pretty similar to each other, but they had some differences that I could figure out that no one else obviously could. So it's a really good password, and every site has a unique password. But the problem was everyone started adding password complexity rules, and everyone had different bullshitty rules. So some sites are it has to have a number and a letter. Some sites are it has to have a number, and the number can't be the first or the last character. And some sites you gotta have a special character, but other sites won't let you put in special characters. So I literally could not make a password that would match all the sites that I use. So I have a bullshitty password for a few things, mostly health insurance and all those things, because those are my government stuff, New York State tax stuff for the old Geek Nights sales tax thing. Because they literally, their password rules are it can't be less than 6 characters, but it can't be more than 8 characters.
Yeah, the thing is nowadays, there are actually very few sites that have this problem, right? I think certain credit card and banks still have the stupid requirements.
And almost every government site.
Right, but most Twitter and all modern websites, Google, passphrase works. So my recommendation for passphrases is there's a thing called Diceware. And basically Diceware is a bunch of tables in different languages, and you roll dice, and that picks words, and you pick some number of words, and that's your passphrase. So, for example, I'm at rempe.us, which is basically the Diceware website.
Yep.
And I'm push the button to generate a 6-word Diceware passphrase. So my passphrase is Mac, Alpha, RT, as in the letter R, the letter T, Earl, as in the Earl of something, Basin Fort. So Mac Alpha RT Earl Basin Fort. You could remember that because you're only remembering 6 things.
Yep.
If you type that maybe 10 times, it'll be pretty well stuck in your brain. And according to the math here, it will take 4 millennia for modern computers to figure that one out, even without any capitals or numbers or anything.
So basically what I have is a passphrase, but it's salted with a bunch of different things that I'll know what those things would be for any given website or account or whatever.
It's not even necessary if you just use the Diceware.
But then it's the same password for everything, or you have to memorize...
You memorize a bunch of different passphrases.
But if they're completely different, I would not bother, because I counted, because I did this, I have 34 unique accounts on shit online that I care about in some fashion.
I think, at least, though, for the Google, I think the password...
Oh, no. My Google password changes monthly, and holy shit, is it one crazy-ass password, and I have the 2-factor. Google's more important than anything. That is literally...
Well, if someone gets your Gmail, they got your everything.
Yep. So I bought... so part of this was cool. I checked all the websites I had accounts on to see if they've added support for 2-factor since the last time I checked. And a lot of people have. So I have 2-factor now on Amazon, on Patreon, on a bunch of other things. It's notable. There's a lot of sites like Newegg doesn't have it, but Amazon does.
The other problem is that a lot of the mobile devices, it just sucks to type in a fucking long password.
Yeah. Yeah, that is actually why I used my passphrase is a little more complex than what you, it's not all words, it's more kind of gibberishy nonsense that I just know
But
what
it's
it
also,
means.
that's another reason, though, that the lowercase full passphrase is good, because on mobile, it's a lot easier to type that, because you don't have to stop and like press shift and find some weird character or something.
Yep. But I also bought a YubiKey because I was checking some stuff out, and
Mine's like the first or second.
it won't
YubiKey.
work with anything anymore.
Doesn't work with anything.
But the new one's great because there's a new standard, U2F or FIDO. So what that means is anything that you would normally do Google Auth with, like that TOTP stuff, if they support it, then if you have a Chrome browser at least, or if you use the NFC one and use it with your phone, you can use it to where your Google Auth just shows you the code. It can't calculate the code unless you put the key next to your phone. It's basically three.
So the Google Auth app knows about the YubiKey?
Yes, the Google Auth app will use a YubiKey Neo. So the Google Auth app will run
On an iPhone or Android only?
Android only, because iPhones fucking suck and don't let you write any software on them, apparently.
Yeah, you can't do the NFC, right?
Yeah. So I checked it out because I found someone who had one. It's pretty cool. But the problem is most sites won't support the YubiKey stuff, even though they do support Google Auth. But Google now supports it natively. So if you don't want to do the phone thing, you can buy a cheap YubiKey, just a FIDO-only one, and it'll work with any number of accounts, and you can just use it as your second factor instead of a phone. And if you set both up, you can set it up to use either or. So the YubiKey could basically replace that sheet of paper with your 10 one-time codes that you encrypted and hid somewhere.
You get to hide your YubiKey somewhere.
My YubiKey is always on me, and so is my phone. So,
And then you lose one of them.
And even if I lose them, remember, it's two-factor. They still got to know my password. So then, independently, I was like, you know what? My work, finance, our company should use this everywhere. So I go to people like, everyone, you're fucking setting this up, or I'm cutting off your access to shit. Good God, did certain people like really resist doing this or refuse to until I told them you won't get your email anymore. Like, really didn't want to do it. One of them had a BlackBerry, and they were like, well, the Google Auth doesn't work. And I was like, I don't care. There's an app on the BlackBerry, and if there isn't, buy a real phone. Oh. But what was very interesting is that the old people were not resisting. It was the young people who were resisting. People younger than me.
Interesting.
And their passwords all appear to be garbage because I was paying attention when I was setting up, I was forcing people to do it. And I guess because I did IT, like baby IT, like long ago, like when I worked at RIT. And you sort of get this instinct to not see passwords when people type them because people suck at typing so bad that you will know everyone's password unless you consciously avoid it. And I'd rather not even know the password.
Yeah, the IT guys at my work, whenever you type a password, they always turn around.
Yep. I got real good at that.
I would do the same thing too.
Yeah, the problem is if you were bad, like you could know anyone's password just by watching them because people suck at this. But while I did not see what their passwords were, I saw that their passwords were very short and did not involve the space bar or the shift key. So, yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I highly recommend if you are out there listening to Geek Nights, do two-factor, if nothing else. Do two-factor on your Gmail because that is the thing that can fuck you more than any other account that could be compromised.
Do you want to talk about any like actual Wednesday shit?
Got any Wednesday news?
I could only find
because I think we are in fact the second longest running anime podcast in the world.
That's great. So the only
Anime World Order started like a month before us, but we have more anime episodes than they have episodes.
the only Wednesday-ish news that I could find is that one of our Geek Nights' favorite comic creators, Jeff Lemire, has a new comic coming.
I didn't even finish the last several.
Descender?
No, I didn't.
Descender's still coming out.
I know. I haven't even caught up with them.
Anyway, Driller's a killer.
I've only read that bit we reviewed.
So the new comic, I mean, it's only the issue. I'm not buying it because I'm just waiting for the trade.
Yep.
It's coming from Dark Horse. It's Black Hammer. So it's a superhero thing, I guess.
But Black Hammer.
All right, and it says, once they were heroes, but that age has long since passed, so I guess they're washed up or heroes or something.
It could be Watchmen, it could be the Black Order or whatever that one
Banished
comic we
from
read.
existence by a multiversal crisis. So this
Oh,
sounds
it's
like
gonna be space bullshit.
It sounds like some DC garbage, even though it's a Dark Horse comic.
But it could also be some in-call garbage.
Right, so already that beginning part and the alternate art cover looks like old DC corny garbage that I'm not interested in. But then the description goes on, it names all the heroes, whatever. now lead simple lives in a timeless farming town.
It's the town from the anime we're reviewing today.
Yes, even as they try to find their way home, trouble has a unique way, whatever. So it's like, oh, this is sort of like, old school superheroes, but in a, modern, sort of mystery anime type setting situation of like, whoa, what the fuck is going on, Mister?
Oh.
So Lost Village plus,
Washed up superheroes.
yeah, Superman,
Space nonsense, all that biz.
Justice League, whatever.
I mean, Lemire pretty much I'll check out.
I don't think he's ever written a comic that I did not like reading.
I'll read the first trade of anything he does unless he starts betraying me.
Yeah, so, well, who knows? There might be some betrayal. I don't even know, like, what it's called Black Hammer. It's like, dude, the title alone, I don't even need the description, right? It's like Mouse Guard is like home run with the black axe. You can hit a lot farther home run with a black hammer than you can with an axe.
That black axe lived up to everything it should have lived up to, too. So, in today, it looks like it was New York Comic Con Get Your Badge Day, and
did everyone have a profile set up?
Apparently, everyone did. Like I trolled around a little bit on social media networks. There didn't seem to be that many people who were confused.
Well, people who had social media accounts weren't confused.
Yep.
What about the normies?
I care not.
The basics.
Do not care anymore because the reality is there was a time when fan conventions, and that's why my news is not the Comic-Con badge situation because everyone's flipping out. I think they're already all sold out. Like no one got badges. Everyone's
enough people made profiles to sell out. Wow.
There is not that much overlap between the people who go to PAXs and the people who go to New York Comic Con because no one in my social media was really complaining about this. It's like this whole other set of people, and they were all making, like, you think, like, the people who complain about PAX at least have been to a lot of PAXs and conventions, so when they complain, like, while they're wrong about their solutions, they're like several steps beyond baby's first, why can't I get a badge? Like they at least are like, what if they do a lottery? Like they've come up with all these crazy ideas. Like they know the basics of the situation. The Comic-Con people are like baby birds. Like, they're like, it's the fucking scalpers. Oh my God, the scalpers. No, dude, it's not
There's
the scalpers.
probably less scalping for this than any convention ever
It's
with
New
their stupid
York
profiles.
City. People go there for a day. There are like 60 million people who can get there as a day trip if they want. There are not 60 million badges for sale. But so people have, that all happened. It was just interesting to watch that go down. But my news is actually from April because it's tangentially related. So basically, New York Comic Con in the old days was a free-for-all and kind of a shit show. Like, we went every year, either as guests or press.
I attempted to go. The first year, I didn't go, but I walked past it.
That was the one the fire marshal shut down.
I wanted to see what the deal was on the first year. So I walked past it and saw crazy lines going out the building and no one getting in. And the second year, I went for like a night after work on Friday just to see. And that's all the time I needed.
But it's worth telling.
And then like the third and fourth years, I went for a day each, and that was it.
I went to every New York Anime
Festival. I might have gone to the fifth year. Yeah. Sure.
And I went to a lot of the New York Comic Cons.
Oh, yeah, there was a New York Comic Con / Anime Festival where I went like only for like Sunday morning to see Makoto Shinkai and then left.
I think that was the year I did panels, but you didn't. Like, you just didn't care and didn't even want to go.
Like on Sunday, I went in, we saw Makoto Shinkai's movie and then left, and that was it. He's got a new movie coming, by the way. That's another news. Makoto Shinkai has a new movie, and when I saw the screen capture / poster for it, I thought it was just an old Makoto Shinkai movie.
I saw it in the distance on Scott's tablet, and I was like, isn't that place promised in our early days or whatever?
Yeah. I was like, did someone ripping off Makoto Shinkai? Nope, it's a Makoto Shinkai movie. It's coming.
But in the old days, like for many, many years, New York Comic Con was not that well attended. More importantly, like if you went to the panels area, no one went to panels at all. And the panels were all like nothing. But you could just get free badges. Like I've never in my life paid for a New York Comic Con or New York Anime Festival badge, yet I went to a ton of them. And we did not perform at all of them. Basically, I would just go walk in, not even pre-regging.
Look at every booth and leave.
No, but without a badge. I would go up, I'd go to like the reg area, and I'd be like, I'm a professional, I'd like to get a professional badge. And I would just talk to humans until eventually they handed me this golden badge that got me in. Like even before the lot, like they let me in early. Like people would do, like I basically do whatever I wanted. And I did this every year. I always had either a professional badge or a press badge or a guest / presenter badge. The badges were different every year. So the news was for this year, a lot of people on the internet, and by people, these are people who have pretensions of being journalists or being in the entertainment industry, but the reality is a lot of them are smaller time than GeekNights.
Okay.
So they were all complaining that New York Comic Con wouldn't let them get professional badges. Because New York Comic Con, over the last few years, finally tightened up that ship and doesn't give a professional badge to some guy who walks in and says, "Yeah, I do a podcast on anime, and I'm here to
Like
and
you?"
Yep. And oh my God, are people freaking out about this? And
Well,
basically,
what are the qualifications you need?
so they don't tell you, as far as I can tell.
Oh, that's a problem.
You submit your resume and they approve you.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. So, quote, please provide a detailed description of your current daily duties as it relates to the pop culture industry.
So did these people submit their applications?
It appears they all did, and of course they were rejected.
Okay.
What do you hope to accomplish by attending New York Comic Con as a professional? Please explain how you will integrate what you experience into your profession. Please provide, and this is the one that no one can answer. Please provide the names, titles, and email addresses of 3 professional contacts we can contact for a professional reference.
Uh-huh.
So, and also, even professional badges, they're not free anymore. You got to pay. You just pay less. And you get in even though it's full. So, I was sort of watching everyone just freaking out about this. And then in my social media,
But if you're actually a professional, you should be able to do that really easily. So there's only reason to freak out is if you're not a professional.
Now, in the old days, they had some rules that they published about like how many hits your site had to get or whatever to get those badges.
Yeah, that shit is stupid.
But I'll tell you what, even back then, GeekNights qualified. Like 1 year, I literally took our Libsyn stats, printed them, brought them with me because the thing said like bring 3 business cards, bring like evidence of your website's traffic and all this stuff. And I brought it all with me and I handed it to the lady and she looked at it and she was like, good, because we were way above the standard. And this was, I don't remember what year this was, but it was the year I went on Emily's birthday in the morning and then I just left because there was nothing to do. And then, yeah. But
is that so Emily's birthday soon?
yeah.
Okay.
October.
All right.
But I remember while I was handing my paperwork over, at the stall next to me was this dude, and he claimed to work for some anime journalism outfit. I didn't recognize him, obviously. And he was basically trying to explain to the lady why he didn't have business cards. And
You could just make them, dude.
It was obvious that he had never had a business card in his entire life.
It's not like you have to do something to make business cards. You can print them at moo.com or even Vistaprint for money.
Yep.
They're so cheap. They're cheaper than a badge.
The lady was giving the look on her face was like, kid, you couldn't even just like fake it and get a free one from Staples?
Yeah,
like,
you can go to Staples and print like 10 business cards on one sheet and cut them with a scissor.
Like, you couldn't even fake it, kid. So, but he's not even saying like, oh, I don't have business cards. He was literally like telling the sob story about how like his business cards didn't arrive because of something happened, but he's got to cover the event for his website.
If you're a professional, why were you ordering business cards at the last second? Shouldn't you have had them because you've been in the business?
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of sympathy for the people who were cut out because, one, if you were cut out and you can't get a professional badge, you probably had no business being a professional at New York Comic Con, but more importantly, you probably don't even need to go to New York Comic Con because what are you going to do there except be a fan? Like, the journalists cover the shit out of this con. But anyway, things of the day. So, this is something, you know, black, right? Like the color black?
Yes.
Well, this is darker than black.
Oh, that new material they made?
Vanta black.
I saw that.
So, that's the only tenuous
You can't even
stretch.
tell what shape it is because the light all absorbs into it, so you can't. You have to feel it to see what shape it is.
So it's kind of cool. So this is a really good video. One, SciShow you should watch in general because even if you're like a short attention fish, baby fish kid out on the internet, their videos are like a couple minutes long. And they give you a lot of real science information in a hurry. But basically in this video, they talk about what Vanta Black is. It's darker than black. It's way darker than that anime.
It's actually not darker than black. It's just the most light absorbing material we've made. It absorbs it only reflects like 0.0 something % of light. So it's not completely black, like black of space, but it's so black that effectively a human can't see it. You just look at it and it looks like there's just like a hole in space,
Dude,
and you can't.
cameras can't see
You
it.
can't tell what shape it is. I mean, people can see better than cameras.
Yeah, well, in some ways, but not in other
unless
ways.
you have an ultra HDR camera.
But you might seem like, okay, whatever. They can coat the insides of telescopes. You need to see this shit because when you see it, it kind of breaks your brain a little bit, especially if it's there in
Right,
person.
because you can't, because the light doesn't reflect, it doesn't have a shape or three-dimensional shape. It looks like there's just a hole in space from all sides.
It's a two-dimensional shape as far as your brain is concerned, and human brains really have never experienced that before. Like, it's not something we've ever experienced ever until recently.
It's like if you had a hole in it and your arm was coming out through the hole, it would look like this arm was just like disembodied, like, whoa!
Yep,
like some sort of trippy stoner LSD animation shit.
Yep.
But it real. It's not fake, it real.
This video is really cool and talks about it, and I only brought it up because I always make fun of that anime, Darker Than Black, and I had to reference it at some point in
How many
GeekNights.
episodes? How much Darker Than Black have you seen?
I
One
watched
episode?
one episode.
Yeah. What happened in that episode?
There was a wall on the outside of the fucking city or something, and there's a bunch of proper nouns of people talking about, like, wow, the wall is there, but there's...
All right, anyone who's actually seen Darker Than Black, tell me how Rim doesn't remember anything about the show.
And then aren't there the demon guys who... Their power, like you can get a power, like a thing will happen with a contract, but then the contract makes you do something weird, like break your
All I
finger.
remember is supernatural dudes fighting on a roof.
Yeah,
and it
they
was
like
dark.
you'll get the demon power, but then you have to break your finger, or you get the demon power, but then you have to like dump out a bunch of sand and count all the grains. Anyway, that show, I'm going to continue to make fun of it because that one girl in the back at Anime Boston, when I referenced it, a lot of people didn't even get the reference, but that one girl started laughing so hard. I feel like I hit her with the arrow of comedy, if no one else. Anyway, in the Madam Argus, you got a thing of the day?
Oh, that wasn't the black thing. Wasn't your news? It was thing of the day.
We're in things of the day. I said, but
okay.
anyway, things of the day.
I wasn't paying attention.
Things
No one gives a shit.
of
So,
the day.
last year the Mets were very good, much better than the Mets usually are. This baseball we're talking about.
You
by
went
the
to
way.
a World Series.
There was a World Series in New York, and it wasn't in the Bronx.
Like you were there, and the Mets were there.
That hasn't happened since the year 2000, when the entire World Series was played in New York City. Anyway, and the Mets, so we didn't win, but hey, we can't complain about that. That doesn't come very often.
Yeah, like one of my favorite things to say about the Red Wings is they have lost more Stanley Cup championships, like final rounds, than any team in the NHL.
Right. So anyway, this year the Mets ain't bad like usual. They're not the worst, but they're like in second place, and they're losing to the first place team. They lost like 11-4 the other day. It's the
Mets. That
right.
happens.
This is expected.
You're
right?
not going to lose by a little.
And plenty of people, who are Mets fans mostly, talk about how bad the Mets are. But for some reason, this video, despite being pretty old, yet also despite how old it is, still has Citi Field and not Shea Stadium in it, which makes me feel even older.
2010 was a long time ago.
Yeah. Someone made this really funny video about how bad the Mets are. And for some reason, I didn't discover this video until like a week or two ago.
It captures all the beauty of like a public access commercial, right down to the production and like it's pretty good.
You could just apply the same formula to many other bad things, and it would be equally funny, but we got it first, so deal with it.
In the Meta Moment, the book club book's gonna be Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood, but there's a problem. So I just finished basically the entire Wheel of Time.
Went around the whole wheel?
Went around the whole wheel.
All right, what's on the other end of the wheel?
Well, actually, I went outside the wheel.
Whoa.
And you know what? It would be plausible to say that the Prince of Nothing happens in the same world.
I mean, look, isn't it one of those ones where you could say anything happens in the same world?
It's pretty specific, though. Like, there's Korai and such.
Was there a spaceship that crashed and had bad guys come out of it?
So it is implied that some people may have fled that planet to avoid the Dark One and just went to another...
And so the Prince of Nothing is the planet they went to?
Yeah, basically.
And they became evil demons?
Because remember, in the Prince of Nothing...
Is there a sarcophagus in a tornado?
There is, in the outside, outside of the Wheel of Time, that's where the dark one is,
Mhm.
and it's real similar to the outside of the Prince of Nothing.
So
the outside fucking sucks, and you don't want it to get in.
But is the dark one a sarcophagus of the tornado?
Yeah, but I don't think he made it into the world, or maybe the sarcophagus tornado might have been in the Third Age. Anyway, the one thing you would appreciate about the end of this book is that your complaint about every fantasy book, even the Prince of Nothing, is that the whole time there's all these references to like the old king.
Yeah.
Like the crazy
Like
badasses.
the king of Manetheren, the crazy badass.
If you skip all the other books of the Wheel of Time and just read the last one, every single character who is still alive
Is now a crazy badass.
has leveled up to be like Arthur Hawkwing is like, God damn, guys, like holy shit.
So Arthur Hawkwing is like a chump compared to
Arthur
these two?
Hawkwing is there.
Well, they
and
blow the horn and he shows up, right?
Yeah, and he walks. I mean, a little spoiler.
Are they blowing the horn like every 5 minutes?
He basically walks over to Matt Cawthon and he's like, "Son, good job. Holy shit." But it is literally everyone casting 100th level spells, going crazy. Balefire, we got anti-Balefire.
Oh, shit, son.
Like everything you think, every crazy bullshit ancient king thing that you think could happen, it happens. At one point, you're like, why don't they just make gateways to lava? Yeah, fucking gateways to lava all over the place. It's worth the payoff. Well, I don't know if anyone else should necessarily read all these books. The payoff of the last book.
Just tell me.
There's a lot going on. Every level, every crazy leveled up
I only
thing.
care about certain parts.
All right, so I'll tell you one thing.
Snake people.
The second most powerful wizard in the world, maybe the third most powerful, on the girl side, picks up. She basically, when chaos strikes, you know that storeroom where there's all the like angreal that no one will touch?
In the basement.
She just goes down there and she's like, what's the fucking strongest one we've got? And she pulls out Vora's Rod.
Yeah.
And Vora's Rod is like almost as powerful as Kalendor. And she's like, fuck it, let's
Kalendor's
go.
the two statues with the balls.
No, Kalendor is the sword that's not a sword.
Oh, right.
The Choden Kai, I think that's what it is the two statues.
So they're not. It's not that powerful.
Rand destroyed those. He was like, you know what? Those things, we didn't play God. Let's just not use those.
Good job. Golf
Yeah.
clap. Golf clap.
I feel like there's a better way to handle that, but I digress.
I'm sad that he didn't play God though.
Actually, you get a flashback and find out what happens if you play God.
Oh, that's good.
That's why the taint is there.
All right.
So, but that's not the problem. The problem is that just as I finish that, and I'm about to start reading Oryx and Crake, the new R. Scott Bakker book's like gonna come out in like the next week or two.
It's that soon?
It's like real
It's actually
soon.
happening? It's not a joke?
It appears to be actually
It's
happening.
not a tease?
So we might delay Oryx and Crake and have to do a show on the new Prince of Nothing book because Scott and I are going to read it pretty much like...
I got to reread some old Prince of Nothing first.
I got to reread at least parts of the White Luck Warrior because not 100%...
I forgot how to take the shortest path. I'm taking like a slightly less suboptimal path here.
Like,
How am I going to get across the step?
I'm not 100% sure regarding the fetus that was the key to that door and what's behind that door.
I don't remember a single word that is written on the tusk other than the fact that it's written on the tusk.
Also, something weird happened in the other book with the Korai where Mimara like looked at it and then she like went through it in her brain.
I do remember there's a fucking dragon, and that's
Yep.
always the good part of any fantasy novel is when the dragon shows up.
That dragon is actually one of my favorite characters in the entire story because the conversation that dragon has with Akamian is like, son,
Welcome to Earth.
bam. So
I
yeah.
am the last one.
So anyway, we did watch some. Oh yeah, we're gonna be at Kineticon freaking next weekend. Here, I'm gonna pull up our panel schedule because I made the entire panel schedule, but I gotta log into the Grootic system.
I still gotta make the staff schedule.
Yeah, you do.
And no one sent me their whatever their schedule they want, so I'm just putting people.
I guess they don't care. I mean, all you have to do, because I did all the other work in the department, all you have to do is make sure everyone in our department who deserves a hotel room has one, has a schedule.
Isn't someone else taking care of the hotel stuff?
Yeah, but you're responsible for it. I think you wrote some emails about that.
I'll just ask them and be like, hey, what happened with the hotel room?
Just make sure that happens because I ain't. If some bullshit goes down, people are dealing with you. If a guest is like, "Where's my panel room?" they come to me. If a guest is like, "Where's my hotel?" I guess they're gonna come to me too. So we have split the duties of who goes. I'm too old for this shit. But I'm going to link to the actual panel schedule. It's live. It's not on the real Kineticon site. I'm not going to even get into why that is. It's on a different site. And also, if you dislike the fonts on the thing I'm linking to, by all means, complain to Kineticon about it.
You know, tell us.
Please.
We didn't do it yet.
Please complain to Kineticon about that font. It's a font. I've been looking at fonts a lot lately.
It's not Helvetica.
It's Fonts.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, I did find a really good font to use for printing. You know, like PAX is the banner that has like the panel schedule on each room. I was trying to figure out what fonts to use for that because it's actually kind of a complex problem.
There's a new feature in the newest Photoshop.
Typekit?
No.
Because have you used Typekit?
Yeah, but Typekit isn't a new feature.
No, but like using Typekit.
Yeah, you search for a font and you get it, whatever. So the new feature is that, let's say you have a photo, and in the photo there's some letters.
Yep.
You can select the letters.
Oh, shit.
And Photoshop will tell you what the fuck font it is.
Oh, shit. I'm going to use the
And
PAX font for everything.
It'll also search Typekit and find a similar font.
Oh, I did not know about that feature.
That's a brand new feature. This is why you pay for Photoshop, you anti-subscription morons.
Yeah, even without that, you pay for Adobe, right? So I had Typekit. So I needed a font. I did, because monospace fonts are just garbage. I needed, but I wanted a
well,
font.
except the ones for programming.
Well, yeah, but on a poster, you don't
No,
want a monospace
why the fuck
font.
would you use a monospace font in a poster?
However, for a schedule poster, what you want is a font that has a narrow width and a thick width, and you want the numbers to not be monospace, or the letters to not be monospace, to have real kerning, but you want the numbers to be monospace so you can use them to have a nice lined up schedule.
You can always just use a monospace font for the numbers. You don't have to use the same font for both.
Yeah,
things.
so I tried that, but I was looking around. Monospace fonts all kind of look like shit, and most of them have really bad zeros.
Well, because the zeros usually have it. That's why a lot of them have a lot of variations, like, dot, no dot, slash, no slash.
Yep.
Because they know you might be programming and you need to see the zeros are different from the O's, but you might not be programming.
Yep, but I digress. The schedule is pretty good. There are a lot of pretty good-looking panels.
Well, because the con ends at 9, so you're able to cut out all the shitty panels. Sorry, shitty panels.
Yep, I
You
also had to
suck.
cut out a lot of good panels because we probably had double the submissions we've ever had, despite the fact that we have like 30% fewer spaces to put them. So I rejected like a lot of good stuff alongside the really bad stuff.
Oh, good. Put it on the wait list in case someone bails.
We're doing like 4 or 5 panels. We can't do a lot because
Why?
well, 2 of them are anime openers from around the world.
Oh, good. Okay.
And more anime openers from around the world.
And you rejected a good panel for that?
That's actually really popular.
Whatever.
People like really like that stuff. Also, the panel I would have put in instead would be like Charles Dunbar's anime opener panels, but he is not attending this year because I unfortunately cannot give hotel rooms or real accommodation to professionals. Like I can't get people shit. The most I can get you is a badge. So anyone that the guest departments won't bring, I can't bring them because I can't give them money or anything.
That's a shame.
But that's not my mandate. I don't want a bigger mandate. Kineticon's coming. We're doing those. We're doing writing game rules, which is a variant on a panel that we did before that we're probably going to do at PAX Prime. I think I'm putting in an Overwatch panel that if Scott doesn't want to do it, I'll just do it. Because
I don't know anything about it other than, it's an FPS Blizzard made. It's like Team Fortress, but more skills.
You want to just be on the panel anyway?
Everyone
and just be funny?
everyone I know plays it constantly, and I don't.
So you be on the panel. You be the hater. Or at least
I've already said everything I have to say.
You should be playing this game, Scott.
All right, come play Netrunner.
This is way better than Netrunner.
I doubt that.
Scott, remember how we felt when we played Tribes? Like, remember that era? That's
yeah,
back.
somehow, why do I? No, it's not Tribes. There's no way.
No, it's not
It
Tribes.
doesn't even have vehicles.
But remember the feel of like you come home and you just log into Tribes and all your friends are already playing Tribes and you just join a game and play Tribes. I get that every night. In
Except
fact,
it's
right
not
now,
Tribes.
right now, half our friends. Lisa just messaged me like, "Are you playing?" Like she wants me to play right now.
Oh, good. So I can actually have a life because all you people will be playing this game and I'll be doing stuff.
Everyone's playing.
Oh,
I have
good.
13 messages of people who want to play right now.
Good. That tells me it's a good idea not to do that.
But yeah, Kineticon will be there. PAX Prime will be there. I hope we'll have panels, but I can't say yes we will until we get the confirmation. I would never assume. PAX Dev, I'll be there if nothing else because I'm just going as an attendee even if I don't have a panel. And that's it. That's all that matter. Patreon, T-shirts. A bunch of you bought T-shirts suddenly. Like a whole bunch of you just bought T-shirts. So cool, I guess.
What the fuck?
I got some designs for new T-shirts. So
Where?
the new T-shirts that might be coming are Chicken Surprise.
Oh, that okay.
I got a really good concept that I'm going to work with Emily to kind of flesh out. There's a picture of a really excited dog and a really not excited dog that's been making the rounds because everyone's kind of like, oh, it's from Scott. So
You're the only one who's making the rounds.
no, it gets tweeted at me kind of regularly. You've seen those dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I kind of want to make a T-shirt.
Well, doesn't someone own that photo?
No, I want to make a T-shirt that is inspired by those dogs and us in some fashion. A stylized photo, a stylized design. I don't know. I'm coming up with it. But I'm doing Chicken Surprise first because goddamn do I want that Chicken Surprise shirt. So when we did our panel at Anime Boston, our annual panel, Judge Anime by its cover, one of the anime we judged by its cover was The Lost Village.
And we said, oh, this looks like it has an interesting concept. It looks like it's sort of got one of those like scenario situations.
Like 9 doors, 9 whatevers, 9 somethings.
Yeah, you know, the things that they
9
sort of...
doors, 9 dogs.
There's a lot of Japanese and Asian, you know, in all mediums, books, movies, you know, especially, you know, I think the oldest one I remember is like Battle Royale, where you get a bunch of varied characters and they somehow get stuck, separated from society
in an oddly specific predicament.
Right, in a scenario with a bunch of rules or mysteries and something supernatural or something sinister.
Now, this is a common trope outside of anime. Like, there's a bunch, like, if you go to Netflix and just go through random movies, there's a lot of, like, American movies that you don't even remember that are this exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's just, in anime, there seems to be an acceleration of these over the last 5 or 6 years.
Right, also, you know, video games, visual novel type things.
Yeah,
right?
just nine whatevers is the one I always think of.
Yeah, and the sequel to that, Virtue's Last Reward.
But when we reviewed it, we also said it kind of had a Bokurano vibe. We weren't sure if it would be like the show.
Right, because Bokurano is basically one of those ones, only good, right?
Yeah.
You know, these kids, they're not completely separated from society in that one. It's actually, that's what makes Bokurano cool, is that they sort of aren't separated from society, and they go to like the military, and like,
yeah, like they go to the cops right away.
Yeah, well, right away ish, but yeah, basically
they go as right away as you could. Like, you can understand why someone wouldn't go to the cops.
But it's still a group of varied characters that get into a predicament with a lot of specific rules governing the scenario that they have to navigate, and horrors and supernatural and, you know, sinister things.
Scott watched the whole thing. I've seen the first 5 episodes. I watched up to what I'm only going to describe, no real spoilers, as the giant stuffed kappa with a real human face also in it, like a photo of a Japanese man.
It's half penguin, half face.
But like photo of a real person, not even like drawn.
Yeah, the supernatural thing.
But
you don't need to watch anymore. You're good.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, should I finish it?
I'll tell you everything you need to know if you tell me more Wheel of Time.
Well, maybe we'll do a trade. So here's the thing. From the first, this is another situation. This happens to us kind of often, where the first episode of a show makes it look like it's going to be real good.
Right, so the first episode of this show makes it look like about 80% good, right? It sets you up on the scenario. These people are found on the internet about this hidden village. They're on a bus that they rented in like a tour group to go find it on an adventure.
The bus is weird, and there's sinister undertones.
Right, they all want to escape their lives for some reason, so you got to learn about each character. The only thing about the first episode, which holds true for the rest of the show, is that you know, you have a bunch of varied characters.
And when we say a bunch, it's not like a normal anime. It's not like 9 or 10.
It's like
30.
20 or 30.
There are 30 people.
There's a lot.
Plus all the new characters.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, the trope of these shows is like introduce all the characters, give the backstories, and then the writing always seems to come down to, well, these 5 are together, so let's consult our sheet of their personalities and have them interact in a superficial way like those characters would interact. This show takes that to such an extreme that after the first episode, I actually thought that this show is going to be like what Nadeshiko was to robot shows. I thought this was going to be like, this is taking the piss out of the genre.
Nah.
But as I started watching more, I worry that that is an unintentional side effect of the really bad writing.
Yeah, so a lot of the characters are really, really shallow and one-dimensional and really caricatures almost, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, some of them get episodes that like explain their backstory and sort of give a reason for.
But they're so dumb. Like the surly guy, his backstory is, I was doing an IT project and something went wrong, vaguely, and I got chewed out by my bosses because of it. And therefore,
that's why I want to run away from society.
Yeah.
And that's why
like, you think
I have this personality of being angry at everything all the time.
Like, you think we're joking? That is literally it.
Yeah, it's really shallow and not, you know, complex or interesting. And what makes it worse is that even though they show some of the characters' pasts and the reasons for the way they are, the way they act is really exaggerated. and hyperbolic.
Which is
and
okay in some senses, because like one of them,
Sure.
Love Pion or whatever.
Love Pond.
Love Pond.
Her backstory is like, pretty serious. Did you see her backstory?
No.
All right, whatever. So her backstory is pretty serious and explains why the way she is, but basically all she does is be like, execute people. I'm a guy. Execute. And
like, he committed a crime. We should execute that guy.
And she like hysterically screams, execute him, execute him, execute him constantly.
No, at least the show follows through on that, because like in the 3rd episode, she does fucking try to murder someone, like
right.
strangle him.
But
to
it's
death
like
right
she's
away.
just basically a nut. She's just like
They're
a frantic
all-
nut.
The only one who I don't think is a nut is Lion.
Anyway, and the other thing is that they don't develop right further. It's like we learn Love Pond's backstory. We see that she's
based
fucked
on the
up.
first episode, they're all dead. They're all dead. This is the afterlife.
No, but we see that she's fucked up now. But then she doesn't change after that really very much at all. Only very slightly. The only characters that have any development are like the few main ones.
Yeah, and you know what? The main ones suck.
Right, the main ones, because that's the thing that happens in so many stories, especially anime, is the more main the character is, the more genero they are, because there's some idea that writers have that the main character needs to be more relatable.
The worst example of this ever is Utaware Rumo no. It's a bunch of great characters everywhere, and then the main character is literally this vague, masked dude with no history.
I think Full Metal Alchemist is my favorite example, because you have all these awesome characters like Hughes and Mustang and shit,
Yep.
and meanwhile the main characters are like the twins are like the most boring.
Yeah, but
it's
at
like
least they have some personality.
they have some. They're not nothings, right?
But
it's like
Rumo no, it's just like you pretend you're that guy while you watch it.
But it's like, I wish that they weren't even in it, and it was about the other awesome.
But like main kid number 1. So again, if you watch just the first episode, the show looks like it's going to be so great, because it starts
looks
out
like it's going to be okay.
Well, it looks like it's going to be great in this like Nadeshiko-esque deconstructive, like the character intros, like it's almost like a parody, because literally the bus driver is kind of crazy and like everything's weird.
The bus driver is actually the most normal person.
Sinister
but
music
he has
going.
issues too.
Sorry,
obviously,
not the bus driver, the tour group leader.
Oh no, he's not.
But all the characters are like super into it.
He's like a Mormon type.
They
guy.
one by one introduce themselves and tell you their backstory, or at least tell you something about themselves. And that scene goes on for like 10 minutes as
That's
30
pretty much the whole
characters.
first episode.
And that was great, because some of the characters had like all this anime nonsense. Some of them were obviously crazy. Like the one kid's like, I'm Jack, and wouldn't talk anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
and then there's the other Jack who's dressed like a pirate or some shit.
Jack and Jack. The characters keep confusing this, but actually it's Jack and Judgeness. And just saying those words in Japanese, they sound similar, but it's Jack and Judgeness, and these two characters keep fighting about how they have the same name and it's bullshit. Like, oh my god, you stole my OC.
Yeah.
The characters are just so stereotypical that the first episode, I really believe that this show was taking that concept of we've got 9 characters with mysterious backstories and just saying, fuck it, we got, 30, and one of them's like literally just got guns. One of them is like literally a demon. Let's just fucking go nuts. I thought that's what the show was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the show is actually just badly written and trying to do this scenario
Basically,
seriously.
they do find a mysterious village that's mysterious, right? Because it's empty, but it's not like nothing's destroyed. It's just like it looks like the people have recently departed and left everything there. And it's like, what's going on here? And then as they stay there and sort of try to start a new life, of solitude from the rest of the world.
Characters scream and freak out for no reason at nothing.
People disappear. People, discover weird things. People go off into the woods and shit happens.
But it's all so dumb, which again,
it alternates, as you would expect, between characters sitting around discussing things, like in a very Death Note kind of way. Oh, imagine if L was a bunch of characters, like, oh, is that person up to no good? No, that person's up to no good.
I'd watch that.
But that person went into the woods and that person wants to leave, and that person doesn't.
But here's again why I thought it was going to be a parody, because
and then stuff happens, and then they talk again, and then stuff happens, and they talk again.
The stuff that happens was like really dumb, and they were all overreacting pretty much every time up until the 5th episode.
Yes, they overact about everything.
But 2, the discussions
like,
they
why
had,
won't you tell us? You must be no good.
The discussions they had were so dumb and fake. Like, our group of friends playing Mafia sounds more together than these kids.
Yes, it was like it's like a bad game
like
of Mafia.
At one point, a kid starts singing a song, and then someone else is like, that's not the lyrics. Aren't the lyrics this? And then some other kid's like, no, I thought the lyrics were this. And that's what they have this discussion about that just as seriously as, well, so-and-so was murdered, so who could have done it? Well, so-and-so was somewhere else.
You were the last person to see them. What happened? And we're going to torture you and make you tell us.
The best one was the paper, rock, scissors. They start arguing for like 5 minutes about how paper, rock, scissors works.
Yeah.
So all those things led me to believe that this is a parody. And if it is, if at least from the first couple episodes, if this is a parody of that kind of show,
Nope.
it's brilliant.
Nope.
But as you have just informed me, one, it appears it was released on April Fool's Day.
I didn't know about that.
That's when it started airing.
Whatever.
So even better. But
I mean, Baby Metal's album came out on April 1st
yeah,
also.
but if this show is actually seriously going to try to, for real,
I don't
make
think
this
Japanese
scenario a
people
thing,
care about April Fool's Day.
this show is terrible and I'm not going to watch anymore.
You don't need to watch anymore. So they do resolve and explain everything.
Is it dumb?
It's a supernatural explanation, as you might have guessed from episode 5. But
no.
it doesn't. There's no like climax or like satisfying resolution. It's just sort of like it goes out with like a whimper, like.
All right, here's the only question I have: is Lion the only smart one?
Lion's barely a character, like a side character.
That's why I think Lion's the smartest one, because Lion's personality seems to be sitting there.
Yeah, Lion, and then like there's like a group of Lion and like 2 or 3 other
Strong girl.
people.
The strong girl.
Yeah, Lion, Strong Girl, and like 2 other people. They're still around. I think in the last episode they're on screen for like a minute, maybe.
Does the rapey
they're
guy
like
die?
they're like the least. They're amongst the least crazy people.
Does the rapey guy from the first episode who disappears die?
Rapey guy is
Because he's still missing when I stopped watching.
Yeah, no, he is only half as rapey as you think, and he is not dead.
Okay.
And he only comes back in like 1 episode.
Fat guy has to die because fat guy literally just eats food all the time and bitches about food.
Oh, lazy fat guy?
Yeah.
He basically he's just lazy fat guy to the end. That's it.
You know
There's
what?
nothing else going on with him. He's just sort of like there, like, yep, he's a background character.
There's something to be said for
The same thing with like the
consistency.
2 people who are all like super in love. Same deal.
Wow. Those two reminded
They're
me
like
as...
they're like nothing throwaway characters. They shouldn't
were
even
like-
been in the show.
They were like shit tier versions of the 2 characters from...
It would have been something if they gave every character a full episode to explain their backstory, the way they gave some of the characters. But it's like Love Fawn isn't any more of an important character than than Fat Guy or In Love People or anything. But for some reason, they gave her an whole episode to explain her shit, and some of the other characters they didn't. But she has maybe even less impact on the story than they do. It's just
But
like
just from the first episode, like I guess my advice to all of you as anime fans, watch the first episode because like watch it. Don't watch any more of the show. Pretend it was a parody of these kinds of shows and you'll get a lot out of it, I think.
meh, maybe.
The first episode is really good. It's kind of like Kaze no Yojimbo. You watch the first episode,
I mean,
you're
this
like,
isn't
yeah.
this isn't like the worst anime ever. It's just not really worth your time, even for 13 episodes, unless you're really hard up for some animes.
Maybe we can make a
At least it's not perverted, or it doesn't have any of those kinds of problems.
Yeah. But-
I guess it's animated normally.
What if you just cut out every scene where either nothing happens or a character says their catchphrase? How long would the show be?
Maybe 25% shorter than it is.
So that means a lot of all right, in the 4th episode, I'll just spoil it. At one, they have this stupid plan. They split up because some of them are gonna go back to the bus, and I don't know why they think that's gonna work. Because the bus fell off a cliff and isn't
For some reason,
drivable.
the bus keeps working and never runs out of gas or anything.
It never runs out of gas.
They never fill it, but it just keeps running whenever they need it. Like whenever the bus keeps doing stuff.
But
It
so
does. It's in the show straight to the end. The bus.
But then, half the group is like, "Fuck this, we're out." Which, when they split into 2 groups, it was obviously smart kids on that team, dumb kids on the stay behind team.
Yeah.
But the smart kids start numbering the trees, walking away, and that's the kind of thing that happens in this kind of show. So they're numbering the trees on the map,
and they
they
get to go in a circle.
They get to tree 91, and then they get to tree 8.
Mm-hmm.
So they got back to the campsite pretty quick. So it couldn't have been that someone tricked them by putting an 8 there way out on the map, but the map matched the... So was it just a supernatural thing? Because it didn't make sense otherwise.
I mean, I'd have to explain the whole show, which I don't mind doing, but people get mad, so whatever. And I want to go home.
Yeah, I don't even care, actually. It's interesting. Like, some dumb shows, like, I'll watch to the end because I got to know. But, like, Wheel of Time,
there's nothing to know.
Part of the reason I kept going was, like, I really wanted to know, and it was taking me longer to figure it out.
I want to know,
Wikia.
but I don't want to know read 15 books badly.
It took me, like I read a bunch of Wikia pages to spoil the Wheel of Time, and it was so hard to piece it all together from that, it was literally faster to read the books. But with this show, I just... Watch the first episode. I really think you should watch the first episode so you at least see what I mean.
You don't even need to watch that. Just watch Bokurano instead.
The first episode was interesting. Like, the fact that all the characters were, like, their screen names, and every one of them was, like, a different kind of that guy from the internet. And, yeah, whatever. The show has got bad, and I'm not going to watch any more of it. We said the show was going to be good.
Oh, it was better than most of the other shows out there.
Yeah, but I feel like of the shows we said were going to be good,
it's like a C.
This was the biggest
C+, maybe C-.
So far of every show
depending on your mood.
We pre-reviewed. This has been the biggest gap between what we expected and what we got.
I never said it was going to be like so good. I said it had potential, which is
we said it had a lot of potential, but it fell so far short of that potential.
I mean, it fell short of expectations, but only slightly.
Yeah. But
My
I guess
expectation wasn't that high. My expectation was B, and it got a C.
Yeah, but C gets you already into, like, Armageddon territory, so...
It's better than Armageddon.
Like, actually, I think Armageddon might be like a B-.
Well, Armageddon might be more entertaining in certain scenarios.
Yeah. Like, this gets less entertaining every minute that it goes on.
Yeah, don't come to this show for entertainment value. You're not going to get that.
Yeah. Now I started scrolling through reviews, and the people who say it's great clearly haven't seen a lot of anime, and the people who say it's bad... Or no, sorry, the people who say it's great either haven't seen a lot of anime or they're basically saying it's a shitty B movie that goes on forever. If you like shitty B movies, you'll love the shit out of this show.
It does have that kind of feel.
Like, and you'll enjoy it if you're literally in it to see how bad the script is written.
Yeah, it has that kind of feel for sure.
Like, I've enjoyed things on that level before, so I can see that.
A poorly paced B movie.
The people who say it's bad seem to be split between people who say they don't get it. And
there's nothing not to get. If you don't get it, this isn't a show. It spells it all out for you at near the end. It just tell you everything literally.
In the Anime News Network forums, like in the episode 5, I found a thread where like the giant kappa gets revealed.
It's not a kappa. It's a half penguin, half person.
But it's got the bald-headed kappa-looking thing on it.
It's not. There's no kappa relation.
So it's a penguin.
It's half stuffed penguin, half person.
Because at first I thought it was a penguin, but then I saw the bald head thing. I was like, oh, I guess it's a kappa.
It's just bald.
And a Japanese guy with like a thin mustache coming in.
Yeah, whatever.
Like a photo of him. But like in the 4th episode, they go into the train track tunnel. And I'm like, all right.
The train track tunnel's a big deal.
But then the guys that got the flashlight, he's like, oh my God, there's some crazy shit. And then they all scream and run away without saying what it is. But then when they get back to camp, they're like, it was a giant, like...
main character.
Yeah. That is literally the second to last thing I would have expected them to have seen, screamed, and run away from. My list was number 1, train. Number 2, ghost train.
Ghost train would have made the show great.
Yeah. Number 3, the bear monster.
That would have been great too.
Number 4, like mirrors of all the other kids. But near the bottom of the list was things like actual Freddy Krueger, Black Dynamite, Evangelion.
But Black Dynamite.
Yeah. Like, literally, it's Hideaki Anno. Like, he is a character in the show now. But right at the bottom...
That's Blue Blazes. You should watch that.
Right at the very bottom down there is a bigger version of one of the characters. 4 meters tall, give or take. Whatever. Don't watch this show. Just watch the first episode. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
The patrons for this episode of Geek Nights, in decreasing amount of money that they send us on a continuing basis, are Alan Joyce, Rebecca Dunn, Nicholas Brandau, Heidi McNichol, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian Kuntz, Construction Noises, MyStady.com, Sean Hayworth, William Eisenrose, Jeremy Miner, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. Devin Goodman, Iggy Kidd, Matthew Smith, Shar Tavishan, Joshua Joestar, Tyler Eller, Don Schleich, Sean Yeager, Clinton Walton, Ren from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Rare Lavelle, Brian Cedrone, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Silverod, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Flame Darkfire, and me, Dio. Sam Cordry, Daniel Redmond, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. It's like pulling teeth to get Scott to do the Q&A episodes. We were going to record the Q&A for the previous month now, but we had to edit the show at the normal time instead of going late, partly because one of our bunnies is a little sick and we got to do some medicine and take care of him, so that's the reason for the delay. But what I'm going to do for the June Q&A, partly because I just want to see this happen once, is I'm going to open it up to all the patrons, but they'll only have like a couple days to submit their questions, but I will make sure that anyone who is a $5 or above patron, your questions get asked first, and then we'll let all the plebs, and we'll make it clear who's a pleb, so you guys still get your privilege. But don't worry, generally you've got to be at that tier to ask questions normally. But that's sort of a throw out to all the people who give us $1, because honestly, I'd rather see a world where all our listeners give us $1 and nobody gives us more than $1, because that would actually be a lot of money and we could do stuff with it. Otherwise, the only other update is that the money has not been spent on anything yet. I haven't even taken it from Patreon. It's just sitting there waiting for its project. And the potential projects are coming and doing a big show at PAX Australia. I'm talking to some people about that. Potentially buying a significant amount of further equipment to start really cranking out videos, or straight up starting a small gaming convention in downstate New York. Like, for real, a 2-day convention. The way it would work would be pretty much, to start, it was Saturday and Sunday only. Saturday would be sort of an open gaming thing. There'd be a keynote, like one sort of like keynote. Like, so we'd do like an intro thing. There'd be a keynote from someone kind of serious. And then it would just be open gaming and tournaments all day. Probably like one tabletop area and one video gaming area. And then Sunday would be the same convention, but it's a curated event. An example of the kind of curated event we would do would be like Burning Con. So basically it would be like an example con would be Saturday's the game day. Sunday, for everyone who's still in for it for that, it would be like a 1-day version of Burning Con. That's what we're looking at doing, and there's a chance we'll use the Patreon money to do the groundwork to make that happen. So stay tuned. We're working on it. We got to make sure ConnectiCon happens before we do our own con, but stay tuned for real. But anyway, now I leave you with something odd.